Chiro here for Umbra Games with the review of Anthem, available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, played on a physical PS4 copy for the review. I was really torn in jumping into Anthem. I mean, I love Bioware games. I saw the issues this game was having though, and part of me just needed to see it for myself. I also wanted to get a review down for the record before the new content added with their Cataclysm update, or, you know, before servers shut down. I was able to convince Drizzle, Hercules, and Son of Scani to join me in this endeavor, and I don't think they hate me too much more than when we began, but you may have to ask them. For those of you that didn't follow this whole ordeal, Anthem is what they've taken to calling a shared world shooter, in the likes of Destiny and The Division. If you don't know Bioware's history, they're known for super lore-rich Western RPGs like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. While those games' later iterations do have some various side content that's multiplayer, for the most part Bioware makes giant single-player games. EA acquired Bioware after the release of the first Mass Effect game, and as people know, EA are a bit driven on maximizing profit to the fullest, and seeing the, at the time, Activision-owned Destiny be successful, and Ubisoft had The Division catch on like it did, and they wanted their own entry into the genre. There are many tales and speculations on what exactly went, quote, wrong with this game, but that's not what I'm here for. Let's talk about gameplay. Anthem puts you in the suit of a freelancer. These suits are called javelins, and they're capable of being outfitted with all types of weaponry, and are built to fly, Iron Man style. There are 4 classes of javelins, each of which you can eventually unlock as you level up your character. Each javelin has a distinct primary weapon as well as specific equipable abilities. I spent most of my time as the Storm Javelin, which can equip elemental components to do devastating magical attacks, like call down lightning and freeze foes. You and those like you are tasked helping to keep order on the planet, squashing those that wish to use the Anthem of Creation to do bad things. A faction of people called the Dominion rise up to do just that, and you have to stop them. I apologize, but as I'll explain here in a minute, that's about all I got from the story. The game is an over-the-shoulder, third-person shooter when you're on a mission, but goes to a first-person camera when you're walking around the fort, the game's single-player area where you talk to NPCs, visit shops, and receive quests. Which, let's stop right here. As Bioware does, there are tons of lore entries you can find, and so many NPCs have tons of things they want to talk to you about, and you even get to answer them sometimes, though most decisions seem of little consequence. All missions are set up to be multiplayer, and the game strongly advises you to do so at every turn. Now, when you're playing in a group like we did, the last thing you kind of want to do in between shooting things with your friends is walk around town for 10 to 15 minutes at a time between missions to look for all the speech bubbles. New things that people have to say and new quests to accept are not able to be shared with the party. This can cause a team member to maybe not see that they don't have a specific mission that they're able to launch together with the team anyway, meaning they don't get progress. This also means if you're the one that wants to read and keep up with the story and your friends don't, it can get tough. Not to mention when you're out on a mission and find glyphs and lore and other collectibles. I think there may just be a bit too much readable lore for a multiplayer shooter. But let's talk about what Anthem does right. First off, you fly like Iron Man, and Anthem does this part really well. Turning on the thrusters is a click away. You can do it from nearly any point of movement, from standing to mid-jump. You can hover, you can barrel roll while flying, and you're just limited by the heat of your engines, which you can cool by flying downwards, or even more quickly by flying through water. The gunplay is also fairly smooth and solid. You have a variety of weapons to equip, from pistols to sniper rifles with exploding ammo. You can have 2 weapons on you at any given time, and ammo is a consumable that enemies drop. Some enemies have weak points, like turrets having a small place at the base to hit it, and the big guys have tanks you can target. There are also elemental combinations that can be triggered, like if I freeze an enemy solid, melee damage to that frozen target will do bonus damage. When the game first launched, I read you weren't able to change your loadout while in mission, that you could only do it before launching in the fort through a couple of load screens. But by the time we started, that was available, which really is kind of important if you're wanting to get to know the feeling of a gun. New drops just show up as crystal objects until you finish that particular mission, and then it's revealed what you received. I don't know that the upgrades were typically something any of us really looked forward to, which is something that really needs to be a priority in games like this. I'd go several missions without even checking upgrades, and didn't really feel like I was missing out. One other aspect is that the enemy variety doesn't feel all that fleshed out. On top of that, mission objectives, especially when you're not plugged into the story, got really repetitive. Stand in this circle for a period of time and make sure no enemies are in it. Grab shiny things up to 3 at a time and put them in a receptacle, or grab an artifact fragment which hinders your ability to fly and drag it back on foot, or of course, kill everything. There's one place where the game kind of branched off of this, involving opening tomb doors that required 3 or 4 objectives apiece. One such objective required a specific number of multi-kills, which despite what Bioware says, is glitched for the Storm class. A multi-kill, which the name implies, is eliminating a set number of enemies within a time limit. Everything we could find online says 8 kills, with no more than 10 seconds between each. Now, this is a pretty common occurrence with the Storm's lightning that I was using, and more particularly, its ultimate ability. Some places I read said the specific mage skills themselves don't count as multi-kills, so okay, fine. I did it with guns. Drizzle sat there with a lap timer and counted the time between kills, and it still wasn't registering. After about an hour of trying to get this thing to work, I just switched over to my Colossus Javelin and got a multi-kill registered on my first attempt. This was more than frustrating. Next, let's talk about the world. Holy cow, did they get so much detail and beauty crammed in here. From lighting to waterfall to plants to the various textures. I remember even stopping in a mine-like area and just being amazed at the attention and level of detail to be found. Hercules even made a comment that he went to play something else after we were done here, and it was such a contrast with how well lips moved in sync with the words after going through Anthem. I mean, there's a lot of facial diversity, attractive character models to go along with all of the great voice acting. The main campaign with side quests took us about 15 to 20 hours, including redoing a couple of missions for the aforementioned someone didn't have it issue. We had occasional disconnects from the server, which most of the time you'd be able to jump back in and reestablish the connection. Of course, there were also a few full-on game freezes, which took minutes to reload and get back into the game. The scariest part was preparing for the final mission. The leader couldn't choose launch mission. It wasn't an option. Often if this happened, you could reselect the mission from the map and make everyone hit their ready button again and you'd be good to go. But on the final mission, you can't do that. So we all had to bail. There's a cutscene when you start to accept that final mission before you go to the multiplayer screen, and all of us were getting blue screened out of it. Nobody could start it. Finally, we figured out if you didn't skip the cutscene and you sat there and watched it, you could make it through it without it dying. We ended up often cranking up the difficulty to hard just because it was a bit easy and even more mindless set on normal difficulty, but hard, it seems, was as predicted, just a slider that seemed to turn up enemy HP, making everything a big old bullet sponge. I will also say we weren't really motivated enough to play through in-game content, as it looked pretty much just to be more of the same repetitive thing, so I can't speak to that here. Really, with all this though, I have to say personally I'm more disappointed in Anthem than anything else. If this game had been a single-player RPG and the development team could focus on it as such, this is absolutely a world I would want to be in and explore. But it turned out just to be a flawed, shallow experience. The beautiful world, deep lore, beautiful character models, solid voice acting, great flight control, and smooth gunplay just isn't quite enough to overcome the forced multiplayer, repetitive objectives, and boring loot. Rated as a role-playing game, third-person shooter hybrid, Anthem gets a 48 out of 100, subtracting just a bit extra for bugs and crashes, on my true 0 to 100 scale, where 50 is an average game. This is Chiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.